Hello, my name is Professor Balashov, and today I will be explaining game theory, which in this case you have two prisoners. These prisoners have the choice whether to confess or not to confess. In this example, prisoner 1, which is blue in these boxes, has the choice against prisoner 2, which is green in these cases. Now, if prisoner 1 and prisoner 2 both choose not to confess, they will both get 15 years. However, if prisoner 1 chooses to confess and prisoner 2 chooses not to confess, prisoner 2 will get 25 years and prisoner 1 will get off free. But if prisoner 1 chooses not to confess and prisoner 2 chooses to confess, then prisoner 1 will get 25 years and prisoner 2 will get off free. However, if both choose to confess, then both will get 20 years, which is not good.
Alright, today I'll be explaining dominant strategy. Prisoner 1 and prisoner 2 both have the same dominant strategy in the sense that he will get confesses free versus 15 years against 20 versus 25 years. Okay, that's it.
Okay, so I'll be explaining prisoner's dilemma. So because both prisoners' dominant strategy is to confess, they'll both be confessing to make themselves better off, but in the end they both end up worse off because they will get 20 years versus 15 years each. And this is prisoner's dilemma where the Nash equilibrium is in this box.
So I'm explaining collusion, which in this case would be if the prisoners illegally decided that they would both pick something, in this case to not confess, they would end up being better off.
Ready? All right. An open market operation is an activity by a central bank to buy or sell government bonds in the open market. The central bank uses them as their primary means of implementing monetary policy. The usual aim of open market operations is to manipulate the short-term interest rate and the supply of base money in an economy, and thus indirectly control the total money supply, in effect expanding money or contracting the money supply. This involves meeting the demand of base money at the target interest rate by buying and selling government securities or other financial instruments. Monetary targets such as inflation, interest rates, or exchange rates are used to guide this implementation.
Hello, alright, so it is Professor Balashov back. Now I will be telling you how to read the open market operations. Now, as you can see on the latitude side, it reads right here, nominal interest rate. Now, on the longitude side, it says quantity of money. Now, when people buy bonds, represented here, the money supply will shift to the right, and the interest rate will fall, causing the MD, which stands for money demand, to have its equilibrium moved down and right here. Okay, so now, when you have to sell the bonds, the money supply, which is represented by this MS, shifts to the left. This will cause the I, aka interest rate, to increase, which will make the quantity of money to shift to the left and up, aka longitude to the left, latitude to the up, to shift the equilibrium to this point here. Okay? Okay, now I'd like to say I'm sorry for the goats. The goats are not to be hurt. Okay, I'm very sorry.
Okay, continuing on what Professor Balashov said,
It's Balashov, but continue, okay.
So, the reason why money demand is downward sloping is because as interest rates rise, the opportunity cost of holding money increases. So people hold less money when it goes up and more money when it goes down. Money supply is vertical because it is the quantity at which the Fed decides how much money to put in, so it's a fixed rate. So when money supply shifts and it changes the interest rate, it correlates to the aggregate demand curve. So as interest rates decrease when they buy bonds, it stimulates aggregate demand, and this creates an incentive for people to invest more, and like it increases GDP, which shifts AD to the right. Now when they sell bonds, it increases the interest rate, which would decrease aggregate demand and shift it to the left because it decreases investment spending and such in GDP.
This is the circular flow diagram, and I will be explaining the product market. In the product market, the households are the demanders and businesses are the suppliers. When households spend money in the product market, the businesses are supplying them with those goods and services.
Okay, so in the resource market, households supply the resources, which is labor, and the businesses demand them, and they pay their costs, which are the wages, and then that translates to incomes that goes back into households.
Okay, so when the government comes into the circular flow diagram, they collect taxes from both the households and the businesses to raise money so that they can give transfer payments to households in the form of things like Social Security, things like food stamps and stuff like that. And they can also subsidize businesses so that to give them incentive to invest.
In terms of government spending, the government will be paying, for the market, the government will be paying workers in order to build certain government contracts, such as roads or bridges. In terms of resources, this would be labor, and they would be receiving, in terms of goods and services, they could receive things such as materials. I will be explaining 3 different employments. The first unemployments, excuse me. The first unemployment would be structural. This is where the worker skills do not fit the requirements for the job. Frictional unemployment is when when a person is in between jobs. An example of this would be a college student coming directly out of college. Lastly, cyclical unemployment is it moves with the business cycle. For example, in a recession, it will increase. Recession will increase, and in an expansion, it will decrease.
So in the ADAS model, full employment lies at equilibrium of the SRAS and AD, which is also where only structural and frictional unemployment exists.
So if inputs increase in cost, then SRAS will shift this way, and that moves equilibrium from here to here.
So after SRAS shifts, the economy is now producing at a point to the left of the equilibrium and at a price level that's higher than the equilibrium. So at this point, cyclical unemployment exists because the economy is in a recession, so unemployment is higher.
So in this version of the production possibilities curve, opportunity cost is increasing. You can tell that because the curve is bowed outwards. So there are 4 typical points. A is feasible but not efficient because you're not using all your resources. B, you're producing more of good A and less of good B. C, you're producing more of good B and less of good A. And D is not attainable because you don't have enough resources. So you would need something like a technology increase in order to be able to move production from on the curve out to D.
Okay, so in this graph, because it's concave to the origin, there's an increasing opportunity cost. So if you increase your production of good A, then you'll have to give up more and more of good B. And likewise, if you increase your production of good B, the opportunity cost of producing good A would increase.
For the constant opportunity cost, good A, as you see here, if it increases, good B, as you see here, will decrease at a constant rate.
I will be talking about comparative advantage. In the country Kazakhstan, it has the lower opportunity cost of making nuclear missiles and the better comparative advantage in making the nuclear missiles. In my home country, North Korea, we pray to gods every night. That is why my father, Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-il, raised the goats every night and day. That is why we have the comparative advantage and the lower opportunity cost in making goats. Goats will rule the world.
Hello, I am Professor Zlotnitsky. Today I will be explaining dominant strategy. Prisoner 1 will have the dominant strategy because shit.
Those goods and services.
Okay, so after SRAS shifts, then the LRAS curve shifts. Wait.
Equilibrium. I don't know.
In order to build things.
In my home country, North In my home